All right, so this is a presentation about how our Windsor Library stacks up against the American Association for School Library Standards. Our title page really gives a really good encapsulation of the kinds of things that our library can provide and the ways in which we get students to engage, create, inquire, and explore in ways they didn't really think possible. Alrighty, so this is an example of the checklist that the association has for us. There are 6 different columns, and each of those columns is 2 sub-columns. One is about the building, i.e. the actual local library, and the other is about the district, i.e. multiple libraries or the whole school library district as a whole. I went through this checklist with my partner library, and we checked some boxes really well, and others we decided we needed some improvement on. So if you see 2 dots, that means we did really well in that category. 1 means we met the standard, and if it was empty, that means that's an area for improvement. So we're going to jump right into the first part of the checklist, which is explore. A couple ways we get students to explore, whether their own creative limits or their own ideas of what they think is possible. We use 2 different methods that I'm going to showcase here. The first is the choice board. Now, the choice board is something we've created for middle school students, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And the choice board provides a choice that is comprised of digital and analog resources so a student can explore their own personal creativity and their own personal innovation. Case in point, one of the choices is about making bracelets. If a student wants to try to learn how to make a bracelet, they can explore the digital resources we've provided to them that will showcase how to make a bracelet. And of course, we have physical materials in the library that they can use to make their own bracelets with. If, on the other hand, a student is more interested in learning how to code, then one option for coding we have is Tinkercad, i.e. designing 3D printable objects. They will digitally sculpt what they want to build after going through a lesson on how to design an object for a 3D printer, and then they will go and print it itself using the physical 3D printer. So they have to learn about it, how it works digitally and how it works physically. That's one way via the choice board, via those examples that we get students to explore. Now, another way is through non-traditional means, i.e. we physically bend the library into an instrument for learning. We can do that either through setting up the library in accordance with a theme, either for a month or a particular holiday, or we do stuff like the crime scene, in which we set up a little fake crime scene. We have all the students come down, either by grade level or individually, depending on their age, and we have them evaluate the crime scene. And then they get the opportunity to vote on who they think did the crime scene. They have 3 different choices. They're all choices from children's literature, so they have to extrapolate their literary knowledge of characters in a print setting or a print visual setting, and they have to figure out which of those characters' attributes make them more likely to be the criminal. The winners were chosen at random out of the winning votes, or the correct votes, and they were each given a bag of cookies, because if you give a mouse a cookie, he will eventually do a crime. So that is one way we use non-traditional methods to get students to explore our library space. My major recommendation when it comes to the Explore category, I'll have a recommendation for each column, 6 in total, is that we have more district support when it comes to exploring themed programs. We devise our own on a regular basis, but more district support would lend itself to better and more comprehensive Explore programs, particularly across the entire district, not just with our library. For the second column, engage, we like to engage students via information literacy and emergent technologies using up-to-date subjects. And one of those subjects is AI. And we decided to explore AI primarily for middle school students through the power of bias. So we went on Canva, we went to its AI image generator, and all we did was we had it produce the image of a doctor. We just gave it 2 words, a doctor. And it came up with 4 pretty good images, but we had the students, via questioning, notice that by engaging with this technology, they couldn't help but notice that the AI had a pretty big bias. It thought of a doctor in one specific narrow regard. It didn't recognize that doctors come from all walks of life, have all different kinds of bodies, are members of all different kinds of groups of people. They come from all over the world. Nope, the AI just sees a doctor as a one narrow, focused, specific kind of person. And we explored with students and we had them engage with why that might be the case. And we had students realize, or we helped students realize, that AI has a bias because it's built by human beings. It's trained on data made by human beings. So therefore, because human beings are biased, AI will also be biased. So in this way, we get students to engage with new and upcoming technology in a way that explores the fact that yes, it's powerful, it's fast, but it's also biased and very, very flawed. A major recommendation for this column is the sharing of up-to-date policies isn't possible because we don't really have them. We don't really have the current time bank to be able to allocate a significant amount of time to making up-to-date policies and everything from copyright and circulation to social media. So if we had the time, we would definitely be doing that, but we currently don't. We're a small rural Maine school library, so that's not really on the platter, so to speak. The other two columns involve collaboration and curation. Now, the reason there's so many dots in the collaboration level is because we really hit out of the park with this one. For the collaboration, we collaborated with outside actors, the University of Maine and seaweed farmers, to bring a collaborative joint lesson between middle school and our library to students in middle school and ultimately the rest of the school about a hands-on interactive lesson when it comes to seaweed, how it's farmed, how it's grown, why it's grown, how it's good for our bodies, how it's made into food. We even had a chef come in who has his seaweedish meatballs. We had him make the seaweedish meatballs for us to try, and then he produced lunch for the entire school based in his seaweed dish. But we didn't just stop the collaboration there. We realized that the best kinds of collaboration come via getting students on board, helps them feel a sense of ownership. And so we had the middle school students help us set up the hallway outside the library like it's someplace under the ocean. You have water above, you have a shark swimming above near the lights, and you have a forest of kelp on either side. We even had the kindergartners help us with the fish, which is why some of the fish are upside down. But the point is that all the students had a sense of ownership via collaboration on this massive lesson project, and it went really well. Yes, that is a freshly picked bucket of fresh seaweed. Major recommendation for this column: if the district provided more advice on collaborative examples that have happened with this kind of thing, that would be really helpful because it takes a lot of resources and a lot of time for our library to get this going, build the connections, coordinate everything, and then execute it flawlessly. If the district could advise us on how to do this with maybe, or if the district rather could advise on how to collaborate in a more resource-conscious way, it would benefit every library in the district as well as benefiting ours and providing us with even more of these kinds of lessons. The other column in this little photograph is curate, and that's pretty self-explanatory. The biggest curation event we have is, like a lot of school libraries, with the Scholastic Book Fair. What we had students do to help them build our curation process is we had them go through the library, through the Scholastic library that came to town, and we had them physically pick out books that they think would be good for the library. The book is there, the student's there, the wish list is there, and we're there. It aligns perfectly. It's not a random recommendation from across the internet. We can see the book, we can instantly tell pretty quickly where it's at in terms of reading level and content and age appropriateness, and it helps the student feel a sense of ownership in the curation business. When it comes to a major recommendation, when it comes to curation, we need to curate a stronger web presence. We have an immense amount of digital resources. We have Destiny Discover, but we don't have a very strong web presence to show people how much we curate. So we need to do a better job of building that because a web presence ultimately builds stronger curation practices. All right. Last columns. So the second to last, the penultimate one, is inquire. And we really do very well with this. We get students to inquire on a wide array of topics and to explore different investigative techniques when it comes to those topics. One way we do this is through the MLTI virtual conference opportunity. We packed our library filled with hand-picked students that we thought and they thought were really driven when it comes to learning about everything to do with technology. So throughout the day, through the example of a digital board game, which MLTI provided to us, and I taught the kids on how to play that game. I'm very comfortable playing complicated board games as well as teaching them. And so students were able to inquire via this board game because the board game's built in a way that has you inquire about everything under the sun that has to do with the state of Maine. So events like this help students build their inquiry skills to the next level. When it comes to major recommendations, the district designing or acquiring an already built learning technology curriculum would be resoundingly helpful because outside of MLTI statewide frameworks, it's very difficult for us to do these kind of mass inquiry lessons. We do individualized inquiry lessons. We do class level, but it's hard for us to do big grade level, and it's harder for us to do something on this scale. And as a whole, it's hard to do in general when we have to do everything else that a small library that builds its own curriculum is expected to do. So if the district was to lean in and provide a technology curriculum designed for learners, that would be a really good improvement. And then finally, we have include. We have a very diverse pool of authors available in the library to cater to all different interests and tastes. In particular, when it comes to setting up displays in the library for things like Black History Month or Women's History Month, we like to focus on individuals that in the mainstream celebrations of these months can sometimes be undercovered. In that way, we do a really good job with inclusion. But one thing we can work on in this department is a way to make library resources available after hours. It's a lot to ask librarians to work outside of contracted hours, particularly school librarians, and we don't have a PTO yet. We're building one. So we need a way to make library resources available even when the school is technically closed, because that would, I think, would increase engagement, circulation, and involvement. But it's very hard to do that right now because we just don't have the personnel to even consider that. But if that improved, that'd be great. So to conclude, our library excels at creating lessons that explore and engage students at the appropriate levels, and we are improving when it comes to providing collaborative lessons on a large scale. Our library could use more district-level support on all aspects, especially when it comes to curation, when it comes to building collaborative lessons, and when it comes to facilitating resources that allow for both of those things to excel. Particularly web development. We could use the district support on that. Alrighty, I think that's about it. Overall, I think we did pretty well. We just need more district level support on a lot of our stuff.